But you wrote to us after our second book, More Plain People, was published, uh, to give us some very interesting new information on the Pavilion, Silloth Pavilion. Now, you worked there as a lad, did you, or helped
No,
out there?
no, it was my father that
Ah,
worked there. He was what he called chocolate boy. He used to go around in the intervals selling chocolates and sweets, etc. It was for extra pocket money for him. And he had aspirations of being on the stage because he was always a bit of a singer, but he never got as far as being on the stage. But I did, surprisingly. It was quite brief, but during the war, they used to have kids shows on Saturday afternoon matinees. And I can always remember the stage, it was full of long tables, and on these tables there were piles and piles of chocolates and sweets. And I mean, I was too young to understand much about where it came from then, but since I've wondered, seeing as chocolates and sweets were rationed in the war and we could hardly buy chocolates and sweets in Silloth anyway, where they managed to get all these sweets from. But the sweets were for prizes for the kids. And my stage debut was standing up there in front of all these people in the pavilion, in the Piros as it was called, singing underneath the spreading chestnut tree with all the actions and getting a box of chocolates or a packet of sweets or something afterwards. So it was quite an exciting occasion. But it was a marvellous place to go to. I can remember a lot about it.
can you describe the interior to us?
Well, the interior, it was a huge wooden building. It was just a wooden framework with tongue and groove boards nailed onto the outside. There was no lining inside. And what we used to do, we used to go, if we couldn't afford to go in, we used to go, it was raised up on an embankment on a natural hill beside North House, and this embankment, the seats were tiered up the embankment, and right at the back, as I say, it was tongue and grooved outside, and there was no lying in inside. So we found out if we cut through the boards and chiselled it out a bit, we could get a free show by looking through the back, out from the outside. So we used to get quite a lot of free shows there. Even, they used to come and stick putty or something in these holes, but we used to dig it out again and enjoy our looks. But um, what I remember of it, it was quite a comfortable place to be in, and it wasn't a cold building. I haven't a clue what sort of heating arrangements they had, but we used to go across there sometimes of an evening. This is when I was getting older a bit, and go for an evening performance. I've seen it was a screaming gale and blowing and raining outside, but inside it was quite cosy. But I had a good stage, dressing rooms at the back, and as I say, there's quite a lot of seats on the level and quite a lot of seats up this embankment. But there was some really good shows, local shows as well as these performers used to come around period. Well, every week there was a different show on. We used to get singers and conjurers and dancers.
And were they mostly amateurs or were they professionals?
They were professionals, just like Seaside, like I suppose what you got to get at Blackpool and Morecambe now. But there's one thing in particular I remember. It's like when the young boys, there's a story going around the school that they had a fan dancer at this at the pavilion this week, and you'll have to go, they said, because she's dancing around on the stage with these huge ostrich feathers. And at the end of her performance, she stands on the stage and she opens her arms wide with these ostrich feathers. So anyway, there was a gang of us went on Saturday afternoon to the matinee, and we're all sitting in eager anticipation, waiting for this fan dancer coming on. And she did, and there's this drum beat and music playing along there in the background, and she's stomping across the stage backwards and forwards. And then it's building up to a crescendo, and at the end of it, yes, she stands there and she opens her fans out, but as she opens her fans out, the lights go off and everything's in darkness. And then when they put the lights on, she's disappeared. So that was the first signs of a naked woman I ever had. It wasn't much of a, wasn't much of a view. But the local play group, they used to have plays in dramatics, and it's a pity that Doris Barker isn't around now because she used to be in this play group, and well, my first girlfriend, she was in it. I remember they did some sort of a mystery performance, and she was a policewoman in it, and that was quite exciting.
Do you recognise any of those people?
Sorry?
Do you recognise any of these people?
No, these were before my time.
No, I don't think. I think this was the very last lot of Peros, and they.
Right. Well, I didn't.
Some of them were amateurs and came from Carlisle.
Yes, I didn't actually know the Peros. This one, Dad would know some of them probably. If I remember rightly, wasn't there somebody called A.C. Astis that had something to do with the Peros? I think so. That name rings a bell in my mind. But I don't think these would be local people. But there again, as I say, the actual Peros, they didn't do that while I was around. But as I say, these shows that came, there was actually a conjurer on. After he'd been to Silloth on the Peros, well, at the Pavilion, in the early days of television, they used to have these variety shows with conjurers and all sorts on. And this guy came on the stage. He was the great Claude, they called him. And he used to come on the stage with his tricks, and he used to have this girl assistant. She would come on and to the side, you know, where they put the stage boards up, announcing who was on. He used to do a trick, and she used to come and do the brilliant Claude or the great Claude, put a card on. Then he'd do this trick, and the trick it didn't come out right, so she brought this board, she put it on the great Claude, you know.
Now, you had a personal connection again with the Pavilion, but a bit later on.
The Pavilion, personal connection.
Yes.
Oh yes, of course. This is a big thing. As I say, the Pavilion, it was made out of wooden framing and tongue and groove boards. I started to serve my time as a joiner with Tommy Underwood and Sons when I was 15-year-old. That was in 1950. And one of the first jobs we did was to dismantle the old Pavilion. Took it to bits, and we had to knock all the nails, etc., out of the boards, and we transported it, a lot of it, over to the caravan site, Stannick's caravan site at Little and we made 6 holiday homes with it. These were let to people, and I remember there was 3 on one side of the field and 3 on the other side of the field, right down at the bottom end of Stannick's field, next to what used to be the hospital bungalow where Betty Tiffin lives now. And Miss Dodds used to live there in those days, and she used to come out and bring us 10 o'clocks and things. There wasn't many of us there. There was myself, Alan Riddick, who has since died, Tom Wilson, who has since died, Tom Underwood Jr., who has since died, and his dad, who has since died. So I'm the only one that's left of the people who were involved in the building of these chalets. They're quite big as well. They're good chalets.
Yeah.